Hey, everybody, it's Dr. Guy, author of The Dissertation Warrior and founder of the dissertationmentor.com. And it is Sunday, and I want to take the opportunity to take your questions live as we're celebrating the launch of our Dissertation Winter Retreat happening on December 20th, December 21st, and December 22nd. I think the ultimate opportunity for you this winter to make a huge splash in your dissertation project, and for me to impart to you the wisdom that I have learned with many doctoral candidates, thousands of doctoral candidates that I've worked with over these many years. And so on this live stream is an opportunity to take your questions live. As many of you know, in my accelerator program, in my dissertation training program, in which this winter retreat sits, we do live question and answer sessions, very much like this, every single week, about 3 to 4 times a month. And I love taking dissertation questions live because it offers me the opportunity to work with candidates like you who could be facing almost anything. And believe it or not, I think I've heard almost every single question I perhaps could hear about dissertation work. There are 99% of the questions probably. So I would love to simply take your questions today and hear from you. So a number of you have sent me your questions ahead of time, and I want to thank all of you who did that. And I'm going to be answering a few of those. And if you have questions, I'd like you to pop them there in this chat box. Notice after the live stream ends, let's say you missed this and you're catching this on recording a little bit later today or tonight, feel free to drop your questions here as a comment, and I'll gladly answer them. Dissertation Winter Retreat, registration closes today, and this Dissertation Winter Retreat is going to be a major undertaking for us here at home, but a very huge benefit for you as you are trying to make progress in this dissertation. The things we're going to be talking about, introduction chapter, alignment in your logic, how to incorporate theoretical and conceptual frameworks into your introductory chapters, into chapter 2 and to chapter 3, how to engage in a literature review process that's going to help you have as least number of revisions as possible, how to engage in outlining your literature review and engaging in the literature review work in the most painless way possible. We're going to be talking about your methodology, how to plan your methodology, how to align your methodology to your study, what you're planning on collecting, what you're planning on analyzing. We're going to be talking about how to adopt the correct procedures for getting the data in your hands and for getting the data presented. We are going to be talking about proposal defense and how to present yourself during that, how to create the actual PowerPoint presentation, how to handle difficult questions that are going to be asked. We're going to be talking about in your data chapter, we're going to be talking about how to present your findings. We're going to be talking about how to do your oral defense and even how to prepare for your final chapters in your dissertation. So yeah, this Dissertation Winter Retreat is available for anyone who's a subscriber to my accelerator program. And there's a link right below this video that should be directing you to that. And just for the sake of fun, I'm going to be dropping that link here in the chat for those of you that are here with me live. Devon says, don't have any questions, just thank you because of your videos and app. I'm done. Dr. Devon, congratulations on that. This is so great to hear. I'm so excited. I'd love to know how many months you've been done. That would be greatly helpful to me. And just out of curiosity, Dr. Devon, what was the most difficult thing in your dissertation process? Go ahead and just pop that there in the chat box. I'd love to know what was your big stumbling block, so that way I can perhaps help other people through it. So Emily sent me a question ahead of time, and thank you, Emily, for that. Emily says, I've revised my dissertation so many times that I cannot tell if my writing makes sense anymore. My chair keeps asking for revisions. How can I get an accurate sense of my writing? Emily, thank you so much for this. I think there's two aspects to this question. Number one, the assumption that a lot of candidates, a lot of dissertation writers have is that when your chair provides you feedback, that is comprehensive. And I can assure you that is often not the case. Usually, as with any teacher, A typical teacher gives the student what they perceive they can handle any given time. So here, take this small thing that you're ready for and go work on that. The challenge, though, is when you're in a relationship with a chair, with an advisor, or with your committee, or heavens, you might even be stuck before having a chair. You can be in this email back and forth process, or with, if you're inside of a course, a text message back and forth process that can make you feel significantly disconnected from the chair. And it really doesn't offer the opportunity for the chair or the teacher or to really communicate with you as one would hope, where they could say, hey, you're not that far along in your work. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. And there's this one part that I want to focus on next. And then we'll have to focus on other things. But then the challenge, of course, comes where it feels like there's this never ending set of revision rounds that keeps coming and coming. And so what do you do in that case? Well, first thing is you communicate with your chair and you ask your advisor, your chair, where am I in this process? Do you feel like the feedback that you've provided to me up until this point, is that comprehensive feedback? Or are you leading me somewhere else? Is there going to be further steps beyond this? And could you give me a preview of that so I somewhat know where we're going? And by having that sort of communication and dialogue with your chair, that really opens up a lot of opportunities because you see then into their process a bit. And it's not as nightmarish because you at least know that you're in a process and this is not going to be going on forever and ever. Because for a lot of dissertation writers, things can feel cyclical, where it just feels like we're back where we started time and time again. Another thing worth mentioning, though, is it's very possible that by looking at your own writing, you can make sense of where you are in this process. For example, if you were to look at the first sentences of each one of your paragraphs, chances are if you read just those sentences, you should get some sort of story, some sort of cohesive narrative that is being delivered by your writing. If the first sentences of your paragraphs don't provide a story that's narrowing us down to the point that you're making, then clearly there's something that is needed in your writing, something that should be revised. Often what candidates do is they try to write themselves out of a problem, and that is surely a strategy that does not work. And chances are, if you're experiencing nightmarish revision rounds, you're experiencing that, is that me writing more is not solving this issue. It's simply causing this cycle to occur where I'm stuck and I can't move forward. So many doctoral candidates are stuck in their university where they're paying continuation course credits, $3,000-$4,000 for an 8-week course. And they're constantly being told it's not enough. There's much more work to be done. But the advisor, the chair, can't exactly necessarily point to where that problem is. There's so many factors that play into that. But my two chief recommendations, first of all, would be to attempt to engage in a new type of relationship with your chair, where rather than communicating just via email back and forth, you two are speaking to one another. And then engaging, number two, in a writing process, a planning process, a literature reviewing process that's going to help you get where you're seeking to go. And that's what my Dissertation Mentor Accelerator program, where we are hosting this dissertation winter retreat, that's what I provide you in that program, is a roadmap for you to finish your dissertation, to help you through the areas of your dissertation that are the most difficult and the most challenging. Devon shares that the most difficult place was the literature review, and done since December of 2020, a year now. And such a blessing, of course, to hear that. I'm so honored to have been part of your journey, Dr. Williams. So cool. Thank you for those of you that are here with me live here. I am so excited that I can take your questions. If you have questions, please go ahead and pop them there inside of the chat box. I'd be happy to take your questions live. We are celebrating we are celebrating the release, the planning, the launch, I suppose I should say, of our dissertation winter retreat on December 20th, 21st, and 22nd. Registration is live, and that registration link is live there in the chat box for you if you're interested in that. It's also going to be below this video if you miss the live stream. Margaret is asking, When reading articles for getting quotes, should I be paying attention to things like qualitative versus qualitative versus quantitative studies? And the reason for asking is the results from quantitative studies usually have lots of stats, and my study is going to be qualitative. Should I be looking at those results and considering them? And indeed, Margaret, the answer is absolutely yes. I think there are a set of things that I would always look for whenever you're reading an article. First of all, if it's a study, that is, it is something that collected and analyzed data. What I would look for is, first of all, who were the participants? How was the study done? Like, was it, how did they go and collect the data? How did they analyze the data? What statistical tests did they use? What forms of analysis did they use? What were the results of those analyses? And number 5, and perhaps the most important, because no matter what, if it's a qualitative or quantitative study, you're going to want to know what were the recommendations for future research that the study came forth with. So that way you can incorporate those recommendations for future research into your own work, because the best type of study, best type of dissertation is one that fulfills the recommendations of research of other great studies out there. And Devon is saying, I can say that if you follow and do as Dr. Guy says, you will be done too. Take the opportunity and you will be not be disappointed. Dr. Williams, thank you for your kindness. That's greatly appreciated. A note on Margaret's question about quantitative versus qualitative dissertations and the differences of the literature review. I would say in a small minority of universities throughout the world, there are differences between a quantitative and a qualitative literature review. But for the most part, they are quite similar. In fact, in nearly all cases, they are similar. What you're looking for whenever you're analyzing any study is, who was the population? How did they do the study? How did they collect that data? How did they analyze the data? What were the results of that data? And what were the recommendations of future research? For a lot of you that are at the beginning stages of your dissertation work, though, I want to remind you that you're in a stage where everyone probably in your doctoral program, including your faculty, all your coursework is saying, we need you to write something so we can accept it. And what that creates is a very strange scenario where they're asking you to create a final product, but they're not measuring the activities that will lead to you successfully finishing that final product. And well, what does that mean? What I mean to say is what creates a great opening chapter of your dissertation, what creates a prospectus, what creates a proposal, what creates a literature review is not you stringing words together. You having a Microsoft Word window on one side of your screen and an article on another, and you feverishly trying to integrate Microsoft Word, that is article, into Microsoft Word. It's like getting a puzzle and you going into the other room and just picking out one piece at a time and bringing it back into the room and trying to make it fit with whatever puzzle you're building in room number 2. It doesn't make any sense to work on a puzzle that way. What is a far more beneficial process is for you to gather all the pieces of the puzzle into the same room where you're doing this work and then putting that puzzle together. And a literature review is a lot like that. Your university is asking you to show them a written literature review. But I, as someone who is wanting you to finish your dissertation and make progress in your dissertation process, I know you're going to have to undertake the activities of a literature review. And the activities of a literature review are you're sitting down and you're reading an article. And you're not reading the article just hunting for something that's going to look good in your paper right now because you're writing your paper right now. No, you're sitting there and you're saying, what are the best items in this paper that I can highlight? When I'm reading this thing, what's my gut saying are really great items that I wish I could take into my paper? And you highlight all those. And then at the end, you say, out of all these items that I've highlighted in this paper, I can't use them all. My paper is not going to be 600 pages long, So what are the top 5 items in this article that I should take into my literature review? And rather than you going and typing those in to your literature review right now, acting like you're taking one piece of a puzzle at a time into the other room to build this puzzle, instead you need to gather them somewhere. And we put them in what I call a third place. You build another document where you can hold all these quotes for all these articles that you're reading. So that way, once you've read many, many, many articles and you have all these quotes that you've gathered in one place, you can then sort them out and figure out where these can be discussed in your literature review. The trap that so many of you have fallen for is you've been measuring your progress with pages. But the thing is, you know this, your chair could wipe away all of those progressed pages that you said you had within one email. So what are things that cannot be wiped away? Well, the quotes that you gather from the literature, the highlights you make from those articles, the reading that you've done, the time you've taken to learn and understand your topic, those are things that cannot be taken from you. So if you ask me, if you're in a dissertation conundrum right now and you're stuck in your literature review, you're stuck in your chapter 1, you're stuck in the whole thing, would I rather have you go and do what you've done before? I'm just going to rewrite it. I'm just going to do what my chair says to do. This is the 9th or 10th time, but I'm just going to keep doing that. Or are we going to take a step back? Would I rather you take a step back? And of course, the answer is yes. I'd want you to take a step back and say, what about my dissertation writing process is getting in my way? What about the steps that I'm taking are getting in my way? And so the steps we talk about in this Dissertation Mentor Accelerator program, the steps we're going to be talking about in this Dissertation Winter Retreat, link in the chat box, are going to be of great benefit to you because I'm going to be walking you through each one of those steps as we go through these sessions about introduction, about your literature review, about your methodology chapter, about theoretical and conceptual frameworks, and about you and your proposal defense, and so on. I want to thank all of you that are here live. I'm taking your questions live, and I am getting a few questions in. I have a few of you who are, forgive me, team, I can't translate live here on the live stream. So if you can, try to see if you can get something posted there. Yep, and I can help with that. Thank you. So Denver sent me this question. Denver is saying, I've been out of my doctoral program for nearly 2 years. My university is allowing me to reapply, but I have to turn in 1 to 3 chapters to them such that they can decide if they will let me back in or not. What advice can you provide for situations like this? I'm honored to be able to answer this question because it's such a cool thing that you are turning back to your doctoral program after being away for a while. I don't know what took you away from your doctoral program, but the idea that you have the chance of going back and fulfilling this part of you, this piece of you that wants to go and finish, what a cool thing. So one, good for you. Fantastic for doing that. Your university sounds like what they're asking of you is to give them a full-fledged draft on your way in, a way of proving that you're going to do what you say you're going to do, that you're going to actually finish this doctoral degree. And a show of good faith is you submitting chapters 1, 2, and 3. So in a case like this, one is, left to your own devices. Could you do this? Yes, most definitely. But you need to have a guide, something to show you what good looks like. And one way to do that is by looking at dissertations from your program that are more recent in the last 1 or 2 years. Most likely, even though you're not attending your university right now, you can reach out to your librarian at your old university, and you can ask, can I please have some dissertations from your dissertation repository? Most universities, due to accreditation requirements and other factors, they like to post their dissertations usually somewhere for people to be able to download. And so you getting access to one of those and comparing them to one another and saying, what are the best aspects of these? What would I like to emulate? That'd be a fantastic way to start. Number two is, of course, I'd be very willing to help along this process. It sounds like you're not working with a chair right now, and I could definitely fill that role if you would like. In addition to that, I would say that when you're going back, what's going to provide you the biggest edge? Is you coming forth with 90 pages really what's going to allow you to get back in? Or is the fact that you engaged in a literature review process that allows you to really showcase that you've done this hard work, between those, which is going to benefit you more? And the obvious answer, of course, is when you engage in a literature review process that's true, a literature review process that's thorough, that's what's going to allow you to get back in, more than just you having 90 pages that looks clean. But when you start reading it, you realize that the depth there is not necessarily present. And so I would say, if you have my book, The Dissertation Warrior, chapters 30 to 40 in that book are really helpful. And the basic part of the process is what I've already outlined here, is focusing rather than on you writing pages as a mark of progress, of you saying, you know what, every day I'm going to read one article. And when I read my one article, I'm going to go in there, I'm going to highlight everything that my gut says is something worth keeping. But then I'm going to select the top 5 things from this article that are really worth keeping. And I'm going to type those into some other document somewhere where I'm going to sort them out. I'm going to keep them in an order so I can say, okay, I have, like if you're studying nurses or nursing training, you might say, okay, I can say to myself, I have 30 quotes about nursing training. And tomorrow, after I get done with my work, I have 35 quotes about nursing training. And 2 days later, I have 40 quotes about nursing training. And notice how you're so able then to calculate your progress, because it's a matter of the number of quotes that you've gathered. Thank you so much for that question, Denver, and I wish you all the best as you get back into your doctoral program. For those of you joining and being here today, we are celebrating the launch of our Dissertation Winter Retreat. Link is in the chat box. This is a giveaway for people that are in my accelerator program. My accelerator program is my flagship program that's helping doctoral candidates finish their dissertation. It is a process, a roadmap that I've created for doctoral students that will help them get closer to finishing. And for those people that are subscribers to my accelerator program, we're going to be giving away this Dissertation Winter Retreat for you. You'll have it as long as you're a subscriber. The Dissertation Winter Retreat is December 20th, 21st, and 22nd. Link is right there in that chat box. And for those of you just joining us, a huge bunch of you just joined, I want to say that I'm taking your questions dissertation-wise live here. If you have questions, go ahead and pop it there in the chat box. I'd be so happy to take your question. Amnal is saying, how easy is it to get distracted, and for how long? I haven't made much progress in months. And absolutely, Amnal. It is easy to get distracted. And, for a while there, I really wanted to be a bodybuilder. Like, I really wanted to be a bodybuilder. And I remember signing up for the gym and going to the gym at 4:30 in the morning, like, because I saw a movie, and that's what the guys did, was the bodybuilders. They got up at 4:30 in the morning and they drank protein shakes and they went to the gym at 4:30 and they did their work. And I went every day for about 3 weeks. And I remember telling people that cared about, they're like, "Oh, you're getting up so early." And I said, "Well, because I'm thinking about becoming a bodybuilder." And then those 7 days or 6 days turned to 5 days, and the 5 days turned to 2 days a week. And then I was going every other week, one time. And the question becomes, for me, at least for me, was, at what point am I no longer a bodybuilder in training? At what point am I just someone who's a bodybuilder hobbyist? And dissertation writing is a lot like that. You have to think about how many days a week would you need to be working on this for you to have a peace in your spirit, have a peace in your heart to say, yes, I'm doing what I need to do. And when you're in this dissertation work, I know it's really hard to know if you're making progress. For me, there are some things that I know I have to do every day, at least for 5 minutes. So that way I'll have a peace in my heart to know at least I'm making progress. At least I'm doing something about this. And so the first step in this, Enmal, I would say, how many times a week would you have to enter into dissertation work for at least 5 minutes for you to feel a peace that at least you gave something to this project? And then from there, on top of it, I'd be asking myself, how am I going to measure my success during that time? So if I'm doing 5 or 10 or 15 minutes of dissertation work every day, how am I going to measure my progress? And in my view, the best way to measure progress when you are pre-proposal, that is, you haven't finished your literature review yet, I think the best thing to do is to say, you know what, I'm going to read one article and I'm going to at least gather 5 quotes from that article that my gut feels are worth keeping. And I don't have to finish the whole article today. I don't have to read the whole thing today. You might only have 10 minutes worth of time. But just to go in and say, you know, I'm going to read this article and I'm going to look for what my gut says are great things to gather from it. And team, as you know, some days you have nothing to give. And the question I have for you is, what do you do on the days where you have nothing to give? Do you just say all or nothing? I'm not going to do a thing today because I don't have any time. Those of you that are here on the live stream right now, you're giving time to this right now, your dissertation. You're giving something to it. You might not have anything else left in you, but just to listen to the sound of my silly voice right now. But you have that. For those of you that are listening to this on recording, same thing. For me, when I'm working with candidates that are really struggling to make progress, that haven't touched this project in many months, what I ask of them is, how much are you willing to give? What's the bare minimum that you're willing to give that would give you some peace that you're making some progress? If you started working on your dissertation like that every day, imagine how different things would be. Because you would be training yourself that when I feel overwhelmed about this project, I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to stop and not do a thing. Imagine there was a fire outside your home right now. The fire is stressful. The fire is going to cost money. The fire might be time consuming to deal with. But if I don't deal with it, it's going to be a huger problem later. And so that's the type of thinking I want you to engage with your dissertation. Say, you know what? I'm going to learn to engage with this even when it's hard. Thank you so much for that question. And for those of you joining us here live, thank you so much for being here today. Shelley is asking, my chair is very non-committal about scheduling my proposal defense in December. She agrees that my chapters are pretty much done, but she has a pattern with me and other students of being disorganized. If she does not schedule the proposal defense in December, I will have to pay for another class, about $4,000 US, simply to defend my proposal in January later. What should I do? Well, I'm so sorry to hear that. Unfortunately, the situation you're describing is quite common. Sounds to me like your chair has said that your draft is ready. We're in the midst of the holidays. A lack of organization on the part of your advisor, of your chair, could lead you to pay for another class. I would email your advisor, your chair, and I would, with the most highest level of respect, with the highest level of tact, say, I'm concerned that I'm ready to defend. I'm concerned that your feedback has led me to believe that I'm done. And I'm concerned about having to pay for another class. Would you be willing to tell me if there's more that I need to work on in my draft? Or number 2, can we please schedule my proposal defense for December. So that way you can make your progress, because I don't want you to have to pay for that class if you don't need to. Who needs that? All right. Kim is asking or saying, I have 8 weeks to write chapter 4 and chapter 5. I'm still analyzing data from my qualitative phenomenological study. It is a lot of pressure. Yeah, Kim, it is a lot of pressure. Kim, just out of curiosity, you're in the live stream right now. What tool are you using to analyze your qualitative data? Is it a piece of software or not? And yeah, so as you're typing, and let me know if you're using software, because that will be helpful in me answering your question. My tips for finishing quickly are, number one, do the best darned thorough analysis you possibly can in your data. That's where you don't want to skimp on your work. And if it's possible for you to use a transcription service like rev.com, rev.com, I highly recommend the use of a transcription service if your chair is okay with you doing that, with the caveat that when you email them asking that question, tell them, I'm going to pay these people to type things for me, but I'm going to watch or listen to the recordings again, and I'm going to go through the transcription and make sure that I have it right. I just don't want you to have to go and type that out. Your time is worth more than $1.25 a minute for them to do that transcription service for you. From there, what I would say is, before you write anything, before you write a thing, I want you to decide what are the main themes that your analysis has yielded to you. Have a plan of what themes are going to be present in your chapter 4. And and Kim, you say that you're saying in vivo, but I'm actually working by hand. Well done. I think in vivo is a great tool. It is a professional tool. It is the highest end tool you could possibly get. It is like the Ferrari of data analysis. You might consider something more simple, like Atlas TI Cloud is an excellent product. Surely in vivo will do exactly what you're looking for. But if you're having a bit of a learning uptake issue, Atlas TI might be a little bit faster for you. In vivo is the top of the mountain, in my view. But if you don't have the time to learn it, you might consider a tool like Atlas TI. And so one is, I would ask myself, so number one, get your transcription done in this order. Number one, get transcription done. Number two is, I would look and I would say, I have 8 weeks. Okay. I need to be done with chapter 4 within 3 weeks, realistically. And so I have 21 days. I would ask myself, how many of these transcripts would I have to analyze every day, such that by the 18th day, in 18 days, I want you done completely with your analysis. And then on days 19, 20, 21, those are the days where you're going to be outlining what the chapter looks like, and you're going to be reporting. Now, there's a structure to this that is very helpful. Chapter 4 should be structured something like this. One is, you present a finding. You define what the finding is. What is the finding? Number 2, you describe the finding. How did it show up in what you were presenting? Number 3, after you've defined it, you've described it, you give precise examples from the participants that illustrates the point. Then what you might do is you might compare and contrast what the participants are saying. It's possible that some participants are saying some things over others, and that can be very helpful. And then finally, you're going to then present a final sentence that talks about what this theme is, and then you move on to the next theme. So again, we define, we describe, we explain with examples, we compare and contrast the different participant statements, and then we provide a final statement that makes a summary statement about this theme. We plan out all those themes in advance, and then we go and we do the writing. And all right, so Cam, 21 days to finish chapter 4, and then we can talk about the chapter 5 dance, which is the next piece. For those of you that are in the latter end of your dissertation work, of course, this dissertation Mentor Accelerator program, my winter retreat, is most definitely helpful to you. That link is right there in the chat box if you'd like to join us on the winter retreat. Time is short, team. I have to run shortly. Mentally is saying, how can I synthesize articles in a way that makes sense, in a way that is scholarly using a matrix rather than restarting the research that I did? I definitely don't recommend restarting. What I would do is I would go and I would find, like, let's say that you were doing a lot of writing and that wasn't working out for you. And so what you've decided now is you've decided to pick up the process that I've discussed, which is you and going and gathering quotes and putting them all in one place before you go and you try to write the draft. Well, what I would do then is I would go back to your old writing and I would go take elements from your own writing and pull them into this matrix that you're talking about. So that way, when you pull in that material into your matrix, you're honoring the great work that you did already. You're not leaving your old work behind. Uh, One of the biggest objections or questions that I get is, Dr. Guy, I'm really excited about trying something new and I'm excited about trying your process, but I don't want to start my whole thing over again. Well, I have two responses to that. One is you don't have to start all over again. Chances are you've done a great deal of great work. It's just that we need to find what was great and what's working and remove those things that aren't. But number two is, sometimes the foundation upon which we're doing our work is flawed, and that's where we need to make adjustments. But it doesn't sound like that's happening here with your question. I would just go back to the work that you've done before, and I would pull those materials into the matrix. All right. Well, everyone, this is my final plea for you. Dissertation Winter Retreat is upon us, and I greatly hope that you will join me. That link is there in the video description. It's also there in the chat box. Your best chance, my best chance to help you in winter to make progress in your dissertation. The cost of the program is like 10 fancy coffee drinks. I think that's worth the price of admission, in my view, especially if you're paying $4,000 or $3,000 for every 8 weeks of continuation units at your university. I can surely be of help to you, and I hope that you will give me that opportunity and that chance. I will still be taking your questions here. I'm going to go pick up my daughter right now. So feel free to leave your questions here in the comments, and I will gladly continue to answer those. I wish you all the best. It's been an absolute honor, and I continue to do my best to serve you in any way that I can. And you keep going. This is a difficult process, but you can get through this. I believe in you. Let's do this together. Bye-bye.